The OB Recruiting Insider. Texas gets another win, just barely, against Kentucky. We're going to talk some portal stuff. Should Texas be changing something they think about the portal? Jason's got some ideas there. He is, of course, your recruiting insider. Jason Sukamel caught up with a recruiter, too. We got Q&A for you, and it's all sponsored by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We'll tell you about John and his crew as we move along. Jason, let's get an update to start with. It's a name people know, and it's a guy from Florida that just can't stay away from Hard Rock. Give me a Derrick Cooper update.
Yeah, Texas running back commitment, Derrick Cooper. I feel like we've talked about him, not every week, Chad, but pretty frequently, right? So, he's visited Miami for their season opener. He was supposed to go back, I think, for another visit. He canceled that, was maybe going to visit Florida State. He canceled that. He took his Texas official visit in October. He was at, I think it was October, yeah. He was at Texas OU for that game up in Dallas. Well, last week, he showed up at the Miami game again. So this one's kind of tough to figure out because everything we hear is like, oh, he's good with Texas. Texas feels confident there. Texas feels comfortable there. Miami people think they've got an uphill climb. Yet Miami's not going away. He keeps showing up at their games. They're obviously still talking to him. They're trying to make a serious run. There are other schools. I mean, Georgia had been mentioned, Florida State. I really think this probably comes down to Texas holding on to Derrick Cooper, the five-star running back out of Florida, or Miami potentially flipping him. I still lean, Chad, toward him sticking with Texas, but him showing up at that Miami game last week, that's not the best of signs, right? Right on the heels of going to Texas OU.
Right. Maybe good news for Texas. Miami lost the game. It was the crazy upset, right? The Friday night upset for Louisville.
Yeah, they did lose the game, so that can't hurt. But, honestly, today's day and age, I don't know that matters a whole lot. Miami's still listen, Miami's ranked higher than Texas is, right? And they're playing better football despite that disaster on Friday night. But to me, this one really comes down to a couple of things. Playing time. Texas can certainly offer that. Just comfort with the coaching staffs. He said repeatedly, he's told me directly, hey, I really clicked with that staff when I've been there. And then NIL. I mean, right now, what we're hearing, or what I'm hearing, is that Texas has the best NIL opportunity for Derrick Cooper by a pretty decent margin, is what I'm hearing. So can Miami, or will they make a late charge in that department? And could that potentially flip things? Absolutely, that's a possibility. So, I don't know that him going there and watching Miami lose when – they four interceptions, right? For 4 picks. So I don't know that game, the outcome of that game really matters that much. Like I said, can't hurt, but I think there are other factors that are far more important, including NIL.
And again, looking forward, and I apologize if you just said this, but as we get into the rest of the season, any chances that he may come to another Texas home game? Any plans of that?
I haven't heard of that specifically. I need to check with Derrick and people close to him. Okay. Texas is trying to make a big push for that Arkansas game and for the A&M game. So I would think, depending on what his schedule is, I would think there's a pretty good chance he'll try to get into one of those games. These guys are able – they have the means now. They don't – back in the old days, Chad, that was tough. Hey, you expect me to pay for my ticket and fly to Austin, Texas and get a hotel? Right. Well, hey, man, these dudes got a little bit of walking around money nowadays. So it's like there's a good chance, I think – we'll see him back in Austin, but I need to confirm with Derrick or people close to him if that's in fact in the works.
Gotcha. All right. We will keep an eye on Derrick Cooper because we've been doing that on the Recruiting Insider for a while now. Remember to check out Jason's 321 article on orangebloods.com. Always getting you the updates on everything. We got some Q&A that we'll pull from the 321 here in a little bit. Also, Jason, I was really intrigued by your idea kind of at the top of the 321, and it's kind of taking a look at recruiting in terms of high school recruiting versus portal, and then a portal idea you've got. So why don't you lay it out for the people?
Yeah, I don't really write about the portal a ton in my 321, especially when it's non-portal season. I mean, that'll change in January when the portal window opens, and if I'm talking to guys and Texas is recruiting guys. But lately there's been, and Ketchum has spearheaded this a lot. He wrote some really interesting columns last week where he looked at the early impact of portal guys versus the top high school recruits around the country from last year's class. And a good chunk of those portal guys, the main portal guys, are making early impacts. The early impacts from five-star high school recruits, kind of few and far between. I mean, the DeCorey Moores of the world out there and the Michael Fasusis, there aren't a lot of them that are making early impacts, including on the Texas roster, right? You got a few of them on the Texas roster who really haven't made a dent. Well, because of that, you're starting to see all these people on Orange Bloods and these fans and these readers saying like, oh, man, forget high school recruiting, dump all of that NIL money, all your time and resources into the portal. And I'm like, I said poppycock, to use a term that Alex Dunlap would probably use.
Like poppycock is good. That's good, old man. Well done.
That's a good old man word, right? I was like, that's ridiculous. That's crazy, man. Listen, yeah, you've got to use the portal, and you can get talent in the portal that maybe gets you over the hump from good to very good or from very good to great. But your best players, your foundation of your program still has to be from high school recruiting. Now, this is where it's kind of a different era right now. Like, you're like, hey, we're paying you $1 million. We expect you to come in day one and contribute right away. Well, that doesn't always happen, man. So you got to be patient with some of these guys and give them a couple years to develop. But, I said, hey, if you look at this year's Texas roster, I said just about every top player, someone that was signed out of high school. I said, if I'm picking the top 10 players, and this is not in order, I just kind of spitballed. I said, guys like Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Manny Muhammad, Michael Taft, who was a walk-on, ironically, Jelani McDonald, Trevor Gooseby, Trey Wisner, Ryan Wingo, Jalen Gilbo, Leonga LaFau. Those are probably guys that make the top 10. That doesn't even include Arch Manning or Grayson Littleton. I mean, the top talent in your program is usually going to be dominated by high school recruits. Can you find one or two guys from the portal that are going to be impact players and maybe be among your best players? Of course you can. We see it, you see it at quarterback quite a bit, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, just the idea of abandoning essentially, and seriously, there's been a lot of Texas fans have been like, almost abandon high school recruiting, just dump all your NIL money and all your efforts into the portal, take a bunch of, marginal guys that try to high school recruiting and hope some of them pan out. No, man, that's a recipe for disaster. You have to recruit the best high school players, but you also have to be really good at your evaluations, Chad, because you can't recruit a guy, give him $700, $1 million, $1.2 million in NIL money, and then have him sit the bench for 2 years. You don't want that either. So there's kind of a balancing act here. But bottom line is, if you went to every program around the country, I'm trying to think like Texas Tech hit the portal hard, and they're having success with those guys. But your top talent, the overwhelming majority of it, is going to be from players you recruited at the high school level. And sometimes it takes a couple of years to develop those guys. You've just got to be patient, which isn't easy to do when you're paying them these big lump sums of NIL money up front. But that's just kind of the world we live in right now.
Yeah, I love the idea that someone would have read a little bit of what Jeff Ketchum wrote and thought, Jeff is saying get rid of high school recruit. No. Read carefully. He's saying maybe you think about a balance of maybe it's 25 guys from high school and it's like 10 to 15 in the portal, depending on what you need in a given situation. I don't know that anyone would argue totality on one side or the other. Because if you do just one or the other, I don't think you win in college football nowadays.
No, and I wouldn't even say 50-50. I mean, some people want it 90 portal, 10 high school. I'm like, no, I mean, probably 65-35 high school versus portal would be about as extreme as I would go in terms of portal stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Texas has worked the portal pretty good. I mean, Jack Endries, but for being honest, he hasn't made a huge difference in this team. Brad Spence has flashed, but is this team's record any different without Brad Spence? The defensive lineman, I mean, they're playing, and they're playing reasonably well, but I don't know if any individual of those guys are, truly changing the course of this season. So, Sark always has said, hey, we're not going to make a living in the portal. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could argue they should have made a bit more of a living in the portal last year with offensive line recruiting in particular, maybe even another receiver, maybe a running back. But I think that's the right philosophy. I don't think Sark's wrong there. I don't think he's going to change. I think, Texas is not going to, quote unquote, live in the portal.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. Speaking of the portal, we'll get into an idea Jason wants to throw out about portal and quarterbacks, because there does seem to be a lot of those around the country. We'll get to that after I tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. And John, hey, if you were unable to check out the game live last week, John's right there with you because he was attending his Clear Creek High School class reunion in League City. But he was, of course, glad Texas got the W. To celebrate that win, John wants to offer all OB Live fans that opportunity to schedule that free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. Call him at 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. Coming up a little later, I'll tell you about that watch party up in the Dallas area and get you John's pick on the game as well. All right, Jason. So let's go back to the portal and specifically talk about quarterbacks, because you're suggesting something that is, if you're going to go where you're talking about here, this is going to take full commitment. So lay this out for me. And are you asking if Texas should, or are you telling us you think Texas should do this?
No, I'm not telling you this. That they should. I just think it's something to maybe consider. And let me kind of lay the foundation here. Okay. I mean, obviously in the portal, you're going to address needs. Texas has needs at defensive tackle, at tight end, at punter, kicker. We see them go out and fulfill those needs. Okay. Every year, every team's going to do that. And I said, I'm of belief that every year you should take a kicker and a punter out of the portal. If you get a guy that has 2 or 3 years of eligibility, okay, then you don't need to do it every year. But if it's a 1-year hired gun, like what Texas has done this year with Shipley and Boomeister, then yeah, okay, keep doing it every year. Now, I'm not saying do not recruit high school kickers and punters, and Texas is doing that. Because if those guys pan out, that's great. You got them for 3-4 years. But we've seen the hit rate on those guys is kind of not the best. So take that high school or take that portal kicker and punter, even if you have to do it every single year and just a 1-year revolving door. But Chad, why not think of quarterback that same way? Okay. We've seen high school quarterbacks that haven't lived up to their expectations, their reputations, their recruiting rankings. Quinn Ewers was a transfer, to be clear, but Quinn almost was a high school quarterback. He hadn't played at Ohio State. Texas didn't take him from Ohio State based on anything he did in college. It was based on his reputation as a high school recruit. Arch Manning has not lived up to expectations. That just is what it is. I mean, maybe he will, we'll see, but he's in his 3rd year in the program. He's had 9 starts under his belt now. You can't use he's still young. Well, he's not that young. He's been in the program in the system 3 years, 7 starts this year, 2 the year before. Arch, maybe he gets there, maybe he doesn't. It's taking and Texas is in a kind of a catch-22 here because they've got KJ Lacey, they've got Dia Bell, right? The number 1 quarterback in the country for his class. So it's going to be hard to take portal quarterbacks unless it's a guy, that wants to just come in and doesn't mind being second string, as we've seen Texas do with Matthew Caldwell. But why not change your philosophy and start looking for proven quarterback talent to come in and lead the program? I wrote it in my 3-2-1, and I'm just going to kind of read about it. I said, it sounds moronic with the talent that Texas has stacked in the quarterback room, but those guys haven't always panned out. I said, Quinn Ewers helped to prove that point. He didn't live up to Quinn Ewers was described as a generational talent. He was good, and he was occasionally very good at Texas, but he didn't live up to those expectations. Arch so far is not living up to those expectations. I said, Oregon's done it repeatedly, taking portal talent at quarterback. It's worked for them. It worked with Texas for Quinn, even though his situation is different. It's working at Ohio State with Julian Sayin, although he's a little different because he didn't have the college experience. But Ohio State rode Will Howard to a national championship last year. Vanderbilt's in the playoff hunt with Diego Pavia. Indiana is the number 2 ranked team in the country with Fernando Mendoza, who's a transfer from Cal. Miami's done it successfully in multiple years. I said last week's stinker from Carson Beck's.
Yeah, Carson Beck notwithstanding. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been good. Just last week, not so good. Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, really good. That offense is really good. That Tennessee offense is really good with Joey Aguilar. I said Arkansas is not a good team, but hey, they can put up points with Taylor Green, who's a transfer. I said Oklahoma, everybody was going to fire the Oklahoma coaching staff, fire Brent Venables. Now they've got it kind of on track with John Mateer. And I looked at it, Chad, of the top 10 teams in the country. I'm just going to go down the list. Ohio State, transfer quarterback. Indiana, transfer quarterback. Texas A&M, not a transfer quarterback. Alabama, not a transfer quarterback. Georgia, not a transfer quarterback. Number 6, Oregon, transfer. Number 7, Georgia Tech, transfer. 8, Ole Miss, transfer. 9, Miami, transfer. 10, Vanderbilt, transfer. 7 of the top 10 teams have transfer quarterbacks. And some of these are game changers for programs like Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, Indiana, that have lifted these programs to heights that they rarely, if ever, experience. There's a lot less risk in taking a transfer quarterback than there is taking high school quarterbacks that's we're seeing haven't quite panned out at Texas the way people thought they would. If it's a guy like Diego School or Indiana takes a guy from that dude's good in college. I can pretty much carry that over that he's competition. So I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting kind of thing. I was like, you know what? I don't think Sark will ever do it because he's because of his ability to recruit high school talent at such a high level. And listen, if you hit on one of those guys and KJ Lacey or Diabell comes in and is a 3-year badass starter for you, okay, then that makes this other stuff all a moot point. But if you can go in and get a guy to be a 1 or 2 year starter and do that every couple of years, I'm like, okay, those guys are proven badasses and they carry that over to Texas. You still recruit high school quarterbacks, but it may be more, Trey Owens types guys that are a little more under the radar. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because portal quarterbacks in college football are dominating the landscape of the best teams in college football this year. Will Texas ever follow suit? I don't know, but it seems like a little bit safer bet to me.
Yeah, there's one school that keeps blinking to me as you're talking, a little bit with Oregon. And I guess with Oregon, because they got the Austin Novosad kid out of Dripping Springs, which might be, that's not maybe tip-top elite level, but he's pretty darn good. And then if he works, he works. But if not, you get a portal guy. It's Ohio State, though, Jason, that keeps blinking at me. They just won the title. And then I was even thinking back to, wasn't Justin Fields one of those guys for them, right? Didn't he go Georgia, Ohio State?
He started at Georgia. That's right.
Right, yep. Georgia, Ohio State. It is an interesting way to think about it, but when you do have guys like Lacey and Bell in the mix, you don't want to risk pissing everybody off, right? You don't want to risk bring in the portal guy, and you could make the portal guy mad, and you could make Diabell mad at the same time. You don't want to do that.
It would almost have to be a complete change in philosophy. You either have to go all in or not at all, right? Because if you're going to go bring in a talented, proven portal quarterback, Diabell's not going to like that. Okay, and maybe Dia decommits. Maybe he transfers on after a year or so. I don't know. But if you're going to bring in the Diabells of the world every couple of years, you're not going to get those top-tier portal options at quarterback. So you kind of have to make that decision one way or another. It feels like Oregon has gone all in on portal quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. Bo Nix was one. Dylan Gabriel. This year,
Dante Moore.
I don't know what'll happen. Well, Dante's still young, so he could have a couple of years. But you almost have to go all in or not at all on this philosophy. And I'm not saying Texas should do it, but it sure is worth maybe sitting down at the end of the year and being like, all right, guys, let's see how Arch progresses over the next month and a half. But if the offense continues to struggle, there's no guarantee that. Listen, the next month and a half will tell us a lot. But if Arch doesn't improve dramatically, there's no guarantee he's going to be a whole lot better next year, right? We think, but there's no guarantee. So what does Sark sit down with the staff and be like, hey, maybe it's time we kind of take a different approach with our quarterback recruiting?
So, Jason, not to be your football therapist, but let me ask this, because I have said the whole time I think the reactions to Arch Manning, positive and negative, are just going to be so extreme. How much of this idea for you is strictly about what you've seen from Arch Manning?
50-50. Okay. Some of it was Arch, and I never thought once about Texas going to the portal. I've never thought Arch needs to be benched for Matthew Caldwell. It was more, Chad, probably just that I'm looking at the top teams around the country, and I'm watching Diego Pavia last weekend, and I'm a big Diego Pavia fan even before last weekend. So I watched Diego Pavia. I'm watching Ole Miss, and I'm like, man, that's a transfer quarterback. Obviously, we know what Oregon's doing. Indiana, I'm like, Indiana's number 2 in the country. So it's not as much about Arch as it is what's going on in college football this year. And I'm like, okay. I mean, most of these top 10 teams, 7 out of 10 have transfer quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an interesting thing to consider. And like I said, on some of those programs, it feels like not desperation, but it feels like that's what they needed at that moment. An Indiana to kick you up a little bit, things like that. But it's the Ohio State thing I keep coming back to going, wait a second, that's like one of the blue bloods, because the other big blue blood in Georgia isn't doing that. That's not exactly the way they're going.
They sent theirs back into Miami, in fact. So
exactly, right? They let a guy go, and and then Justin Fields left them too, right? Justin Fields left them.
Even a thing when Justin Fields transferred, or was that when he had to? I don't even remember. Did he have to, or did he petition and not have to sit out a year? I can't remember.
I think that's one where you had to sit. I think that was still during the era when you had to sit out.
And to your point, listen, for Indiana, in Vanderbilt, and even Ole Miss and Tennessee this year, had they lost Nico, had another guy. It's a lot less risky because Indiana doesn't have a bunch of 5-star quarterbacks on their roster, right? So they can go out and find someone almost out of necessity. But, again, I'm not saying one way is right and one way is wrong. And there are different philosophies that work better for Indiana and Vanderbilt than are going to work better for Texas or Georgia, places that recruit quarterback at a high level. But I don't know. It just seems like there's some safety and security and a higher hit rate by taking portal quarterbacks. Now, Ohio State, they got Julian Sam, who was a portal transfer. He's kind of like Quinn Ewers. Again, he didn't have any experience. They took him based off his reputation as a high school recruit. He was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. But now they've got him for probably 3 years, 2, maybe 3 years. So that's good. If you can find a portal guy who's got a couple years of eligibility, or in Diego Pavia's case, 12 years of eligibility. Hey,
that's true.
That's even better, man. So I don't know. I just kind of was looking at the rankings, and I'm looking at these quarterbacks. I was like, damn, that seems to be working for a lot of these teams. Maybe Texas should consider that because it hasn't quite hit yet with Arch. Quinn was a portal guy, to be clear, but it didn't really hit the way people thought it would hit with Quinn being essentially a high school recruit. We don't know what's going to happen with Diabell, with KJ Lacey. I mean, we think they'll be good, but who's to say they don't have the same struggles that we've seen with Arch Manning this year? So, you go out and get a proven portal quarterback, maybe it'll alleviate some of those concerns.
Interesting idea. We'll see what Texas and other teams do moving forward. Lots of 3,000, 4,000 guys are getting in that portal every year. Now we're just down to one window, though, 2-week window in January. We'll see what all that looks like. No more spring window stuff. Unless you decide to fire your coach in the spring, and then you get a 30-day window for that team. All right, we got some recruiting updates for you. We got Q&A before we wrap up. Let me tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group one more time and talk about John. Again, they're up in the Dallas area. John, 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes chapter board member, and now he's helping the build out of the Collin County, Texas Exes chapter. And I've been telling you about this watch party. They are going back to Dirty Birds in Plano. Go check out the Mississippi State game. Remember, it is a 3:15 kick this Saturday. John is predicting 27-20 for a Texas victory, and they'll be raffling off a free bucket of beer. Now, that's a raffle. Free bucket of beer at kickoff and a $25 gift certificate at the end of the first quarter. So go check them out at Dirty Birds in Plano. John also wants to remind you that it is National Financial Planning Month. So if you want to check out that free 90-minute private consultation, find out what your financial situation looks like, analyze it, help find ways to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy, get in contact with John and his crew. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. Shout out to John and the Longhorn Wealth Management Group. And as long as we're talking about watch parties, remember, if you're in the greater Austin area, come see us at TCH Social Austin. $3 jellyfish, $2 select drafts, and that $4 Fanatic cocktail. The wing special is in effect. All the other great food will be there. Come on out and see us. Middle of the afternoon kick, 3:15, Texas and Mississippi State.
I did have the wings on Saturday, and they were damn good, Chad. I find myself craving them. I might want to go back and get. So the next time I'm there, I won't be there Saturday to join, but probably the following Saturday for Vandy, I would assume I'll be there. So I will be ordering wings at 11 a.m. for that.
Yeah, I see more and more people ordering those wings. They'll stick with them. Our guy Barb's 10 told me this week he can't get away from the salmon. I got him addicted to the salmon. He's done it 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And I went with the chicken sandwich last week.
That was amazing too, dude. Yeah.
But I did the fried chicken. Oh my God, that fried chicken sandwich is.
I get fried chicken sandwich and wings. Is that too much chicken for one day? I don't know.
That's a lot of chicken. I don't know if it's ever too much chicken. Because I did that chicken sandwich and I had bad beef bacon. So you can take that for whatever it's worth. But TCH Social Austin, always a good time. Come see us, 183 and Anderson Mill. All right, Jason, let's get some recruiting updates from you. I know you had something in your 3-2-1 about Carlos May, guy in the 27 class.
Yeah, he's a defensive lineman out of Birmingham, Alabama, an interior defensive lineman. It's funny. Texas offered him, I think it was late last week, Friday of last week or something. And at the time, Chad, he was a 3-star recruit, only, I guess it was 24/7. They were the only ones who had ranked him. And he was ranked as a 3-star recruit, no national type rankings or anything like that. Well, then I look at this Texas offers him. So I start looking into this guy a little bit, right? He's got Auburn offered, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Florida State, obviously Texas. And I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? Why is this guy so undervalued in terms of rankings? So then I go look at his film. Like, okay, this dude's legit. 6'4", 305, runs really well, double, triple team, runs plays down all over the field. Well, all of a sudden yesterday, rivals moved him up to number 91 in the country. He went from being unranked, to number 91 in the country. But so I had said like his ranking will catch up with his offers in his video. And sure enough, almost overnight it happened. But yeah, I talked to Carlos. He was very excited and intrigued by that Texas offer. He's supposed to talk to Kenny Baker this week. It was supposed to happen on Sunday. They weren't able to connect. I texted with Carlos yesterday. They still hadn't connected. They're going to talk soon about getting Carlos to Austin for a game. I would think maybe the Arkansas, maybe the Texas A&M game. It's early, Chad. He doesn't have like a formal top 10 or top 5. But I'm telling you, in talking to him, when he makes that list, Texas will be in there. There's going to be some SEC schools, local schools, the Alabamas and Auburn of the world. He's been to a lot of places. But Texas is a school that very much has his attention now that they've offered.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. No matter what you want to say about this Texas offense right now, what this Texas defense is doing has to be impressive to defensive recruits. So you're speaking to one there. Let's hit another one before we go to the offensive side. How about, is it Torrey Davis, the cornerback?
Your guess is as good as mine. I'm trying to connect with him this week.
Okay.
But Texas just offered him literally about 12 hours ago as we record this. So he's out of Boulder, Colorado. He's a UCLA commitment. We're going to talk about another one in a second, or excuse me, a former UCLA commitment. He just decommitted from UCLA. So, UCLA is going through their own coaching deal there. Who's going to be their next head coach? We don't know. Of course, their interim guy, I think, has won like 4 in a row.
Yeah, they got it going.
Maybe they keep him. But yeah, Texas is still kind of looking for help in that defensive backfield. He's a safety, I think, a guy who can play some corner, 6'2", 180, again, out of Boulder, Colorado. He did just take a Wisconsin official visit. So, he's officially decommitted or uncommitted at this point. We'll see if Texas can get him in for a visit. Still kind of kicking the tires on that one. That one's really fresh. So I should have more update on Orange Bloods this week. And then obviously we can talk about him, hopefully a little bit more detail next week on the Recruiting Insider.
Yeah. And again, right now on defense, you look at it, if you're a recruit and you think, boy, I'd love to be a part of that because they look awesome. On the offensive line, Jason, you might look at Texas right now as an offensive line recruit and say, well, I can help out right away with this group. How about an offensive lineman maybe that got an offer?
Yeah, Micah Smith is an interior offensive lineman. I think he could play some tackle for. He's got that kind of height and frame, but He's listed as an interior guy, 6'5", about 223. Better not be 220, right? 6'5", 320, out of Florida.
Dude better have great hands if he's 220.
Exactly, yeah. He still is committed to UCLA. So Micah's kind of keeping a low profile, but Texas is working to get him on campus for an official visit. I'm actually going to reach out to his coach today to get a little bit more. There's team I saw on Max Preps. They're undefeated, so they may be playing deep in the playoffs. So, how will that work with his schedule and possibly Texas getting him in for a visit? And maybe they have to shoot for a midweek visit after his season ends. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But he is still committed to UCLA. But again, UCLA going through kind of this coaching issues. Some of their players are ripe for the picking. We know Texas wants at least one more offensive lineman. We know they'd like another guy in the secondary. So we've seen them offer in the last couple of weeks one of each of those positions, kind of trying to poach guys that maybe want to peel off from their UCLA commitments.
If you want a little more info on Carlos May, check out the 321 article at orangebloods.com. Also, Jason's got his weekly SEC rankings. Where does he have Texas in the rankings? Who does he have on top of the SEC rankings? And who's still in the cellar? And did Texas just play them in the SEC rankings? Go find out at orangebloods.com. Also, you will see Q&A in the 321 article from time to time. Most weeks, there's some good Q&A in there, and we will bring it to the Recruiting Insider Show. So, Jason, let's start to grab one of 5 here. These first couple are a little bit long, but we'll get through it. Q&A here. If you were a recruiter parent, would the negative crap on the board following Saturday's game detour you or cause pause? Has there ever been a scenario, this has happened in the past, where it's been brought to your attention? I know it's not any different than social media. I know it is, not any different than social media or other team pages. Just curious.
Yeah, the simple answer there is no. It wouldn't detour me or give me pause. And similarly, no, it has never happened that I can remember in 20, almost 5 years of covering recruiting. Now, now you got social media. So these guys, they're not worried about what we said on an Orange Bloods message board, premium message board. They're more worried about what's being said, and it's more accessible to them on Twitter or X or Instagram or wherever, TikTok. Right. So criticism can come from all over the places now with social media. I've never once, Chad, that I can recall, had a recruit come to me and be like, "Oh, I'm pissed about what they're saying about me on Orange Bloods. I'm going to reconsider, or maybe give me cause for pause." Never once have had that. I've had parents come to me, but it's usually after they join the team and they kind of get pissed about some of the things that are being said. "Hey, can you delete this?" Or, "Hey, what they're saying is not true. Do you mind don't use my name, but do you mind clarifying this?" Blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing has happened. Yeah, understandably. I mean, we're parents. We wouldn't like to hear people bashing our teenage kids, right? And especially if it's uncalled for, inaccurate. But no, I don't think I've ever once had a recruit come to me and complain about what was said on the message boards by fans.
Yeah, that's probably good news. It's a good thing there's not that much sensitivity out there, because there could be if they wanted it to be. All right, let's go to another one, Jason. Sark has had a reputation as a great quarterback coach. One of the main reasons the Mannings wanted Arch to go to UT. How will Ewers underachieving and falling to the 7th in the draft? And now Arch is going from preseason Heisman candidate to 62nd in one NCAA quarterback ranking, 67, 75th, and others. How will that affect current quarterback commits and future quarterback recruiting?
I don't think it affects current commits at all. Diabell's just fine. He's looking forward to enrolling in January. I don't think it will affect future quarterback recruiting. I mean, Sark still has plenty of skins on the wall, but that doesn't mean that opposing coaches aren't going to use that as ammunition. Hey, he had Quinn Ewers, the consensus #1 player in the country. He was a 7th-round draft pick. He has Arch Manning, the consensus #1 player in the country. Look, he's not playing very well. He's I think he's the 11th rated passer in the SEC or something. I mean, coaches will try to use that, but there are ways to combat that. Sark can say, "Yeah, but look what I've done at other places. I haven't forgotten how to coach." I mean, these guys just haven't played particularly well. And, and that's why we need you to come in and get this trend back on track. I don't think it's an issue right now. In fact, I pretty well know it's not an issue right now. But the longer these struggles go on, the more it has the possibility of being an issue with future quarterback recruiting. I'm not worried about it right now, but if Arch doesn't get it turned around this year, if he, God forbid, comes out next year and struggles similarly to this year, well, then it's a fair question, about Sark and quarterback development and what's going on the last 5 years with 5-star quarterbacks. You haven't been able to get them to live up to anywhere close to their expectations.
Maybe he takes Jason's advice and goes 100% portal.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe just portal all the way after.
But then people will be like, nah, those dudes were already developed. You didn't really do anything. They were good before they came to Texas.
It is going to be interesting to watch from now to the end of Arch's time at Texas. He and Sark really need each other. And we're in a time where you can repair relationships and you can repair your reputation. I shouldn't say relationships. You can repair a reputation, sometimes as a coach, sometimes as a quarterback. We see it on both sides, Jason, but now I want to watch these two guys because they need each other big time. One of them needs the play caller to be the play caller, and then the other one needs that quarterback to, hey, man, hit that route for me. Like, they really need to lift each other up here, and we'll see if they can pull it off.
Sark can't afford to have Arch not be great, right? No. Because wins and losses, that's obvious. But if Arch Manning doesn't pan out the way, the expectations right off the bat were unrealistic, okay, and unfair. But if we're having this same conversation, Chad, late October next year about Arch struggling, yeah, man, then Sark starts to get some questions about it. And like, you couldn't develop a Manning and da-da-da. So you're right. They both need each other. They both need each other to be at their best.
Yeah, because I was thinking of an NFL example. We used to just throw NFL quarterbacks away. If you were not good, we'd throw you away. But over time, we started to learn things like, oh, so maybe it wasn't all Vince Young and it was a little bit of Jeff Fisher. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it wasn't those guys. Maybe Adam Gase was part of those discussions. Now happen. And we see quarterbacks kind of resurrect themselves at different locations. Like, well, why did that happen? It's like, well, because he got away from that dude.
Yeah, we're seeing Sam Darnold all of a sudden turn into one of the best quarterbacks. Like, that guy was awful for several years, and now the last 2 years, like, damn, where'd this guy come from?
Yep. You don't want the rep either way. You don't want the rep as being the overrated quarterback, and obviously you don't want to be the overrated play caller. So we'll see what Sark and Arch do with that one. All right, Jason, let's grab 3 more here, and we'll go to, when does our poor play start coding?
Costing.
Costing. My bad. I might have put that in wrong. Costing us some comments, commits, specifically Diabell. I might have been drunk when I put that in. My bad.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, is that a copy and paste, Chad, or did you type that yourself?
Man, I thought I copied and pasted, but maybe I didn't.
No, you're right. When does our poor play coding us some comments? I need to get that. Oh, that's funny. Specifically, how did I not pay attention to that when I posted?
I am so sorry. I normally would, I would normally catch that and correct it, and I didn't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, listen, poor play is not going to cost him any commitments or comments. And Diabell is locked in with his commitment to Texas. Texas might lose a commit or two, but I don't think it's because of the way they're playing on the field. It's because of other circumstances. So I don't think that's an issue. Does Texas need to play better? Yes. Could it hurt them in 2027 recruiting if they don't start playing better? Yes. Is it going to cost them any commitments specifically this year because they're not playing well, specifically Diabell? Not at all. In theory, if Sark makes some changes on his staff, maybe position coaches, maybe that impacts some guys, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't see that hurting recruiting at all.
All right, grab 2 more here. And this one is, what will it take to get commits from Kennedy Brown and Ishmael Kamara? Great names.
Kamara, yeah. Yeah, it'll take a lot of money, deep pockets for one. Those guys are both elite offensive linemen. Ish Kamara, he did visit Texas once. I think it was the San Jose game, I believe. But they need to get Kennedy Brown on campus. He's visited A&M. He's visited, I think, Nebraska. I forget where he's going this week. But Texas needs to get those. The more times you get those guys on campus, the better. They've both been to UT multiple times. But right now, A&M had both of them on campus fairly recently. A&M surging with both players. That's a common trend with these 2027 recruits. So Texas is in the fight for sure. but they need to get those guys back on campus this fall and then as many times as possible, because those are big-time players who would probably seriously have a chance, Chad, to walk in and start day one. They're Kelvin Banks types of talent at offensive line.
Yeah, it feels like that Kennedy Brown decision is going to be huge in the state of Texas, one way or the other, if it comes down to that. And finally, Jason, let's go to what happens first, a decommit or the next commitment?
Yeah, this is a good question that I don't remember who posed it, but I was like, I had to really think about that, because there's a chance Texas could flip one of these guys, or maybe a Florida guy now, right, with Billy Napier gone, Kendall Gerville, the defensive tackle. But I think if that's going to happen, it's probably going to be, if they flip a guy like Kendall Gerville from Florida, probably because one of their defensive tackles, Texas's defensive tackles, peels off first. We've had guys like Corey Wells, who's visited Auburn a bunch, including 2 weekends ago, I believe it was. We've had that dude on kind of decommitment watch like for a while now, a month and a half. Like, okay, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? So my answer to that is I think a decommitment would happen before a commitment, but then that could cause a commitment to happen potentially. So, I don't know that Texas has any commitments immediately coming down the pike, unless it was a younger dude. But I would think probably a decommitment would be my choice on that.
There you go. We appreciate all those questions rolling in. And again, check out all the stuff at the 321 article and everything at orangebloods.com right now. There's always content coming out, recruiting and otherwise, rumor mill, truth and lies later in the week. Texas trying to figure out this offensive thing, because if they play offense like that again, they may not be able to get out of Starkville or anywhere else. So lots of questions, lots of stuff going on, lots of talk on the message board, as you can imagine, at orangebloods.com. Get signed up today as Texas gets ready for another road game, not back at home until next week. But now it's even closer. That Vanderbilt game looming large after they beat LSU. They're going to host Missouri this week, maybe a game to peek in on, see if Vanderbilt can continue their run. Vandy will go up well into the top 10, I guess, because they're 10 this week, I think. They'll really be top 10 if they beat Missouri.
10 in the AP, 12 in the coaches.
Yeah, okay. So 10 in the AP, a chance to get they'd be top 10 for sure, I would think, in both if they get that win this week. Keep our eye on it. All right, thank you guys for jumping.
They're hosting Missouri this weekend?
Isn't that right? Yes.
I'm not doubting you. I just don't know. So they had LSU and Missouri back-to-back weekends in Nashville.
Yes,
interesting.
That is true. I'm checking the helmets, but unless I put the helmets up wrong, I think that.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. They've got and then they go to Texas, and they've got Auburn, Kentucky at home, and then at Tennessee. I mean, I'm telling you, that's a good Vanderbilt team. I mean, it's not out of the question. We're talking about them making the college football playoffs, depending on what happens against Missouri and Texas the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, Texas got to be ready for that one. We knew that anyway. I think we knew that going into the season, that Vanderbilt was not going to be a pushover, and now they've just proven it again. They fought Bama tough, made some mistakes in that game that cost them, and then they beat LSU, man. They beat them up and down the field. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on November 1st. All right, we'll be following all the recruiting stuff each and every week. Next week, headed into that Vanderbilt game, we'll be back. We'll debut it as we do on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If you're listening in that 10 a.m. slot on Wednesday, we appreciate you, or whenever you check us out. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Shout out to the Longhorn Wealth Management Group and their sponsorship. Until next week, it's the Recruiting Insider on Orange Bloods Live. Y'all take care. See you.